Alright, and we are back to the final part of our SGIF debrief.
Yes, where we talk about the other films that we saw and some documentaries. Okay, maybe shall we start with an unfinished film first, since both Peng and Ivan has seen that before.
Ivan, you want to take this?
Well, it's a film about this director who is like revisiting some old rushes, an old project that he didn't manage to complete. So it takes place in like I think it's the editing facility or the production house. And then he decides to call the actor back. I think one of the lead actors back, and then they chat. And then he tells the lead actor, "Oh yeah, I got this idea. Maybe we should try and finish this unfinished film." And after some persuasion, he agrees. And then they go, then they go into production. And then what happens next is COVID. COVID hits. And that's when the film kind of like becomes something else. Yeah. And I guess this is where perhaps it gets its so-called docu-fiction label from, because suddenly it becomes like actually the film becomes kind of like overtaken by COVID, which happens for real, yeah. So, and then the rest of the film, it's really about following this thread of how the crew kind of like try and shoot the film during COVID, and then slowly it becomes more and more, if you may, free the film, because you start seeing like a lot of like footage that is taken by so-called the public, about what happened. Even though later on Loye does say that some of them were staged. So I mean, if it's back to the age-old thing of like is documentary really real? Does it matter? I don't think that's what the film's about.
Yeah.
The film is about something bigger. Yeah. I really like the film. Yeah. I have been a huge fan of Loye's work since Summer Palace. It's a film that like I remember the first time I saw Summer Palace, my mind was just blown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a straightforward narrative, but it's quite rare to see something so sweeping in this day and age, like contemporary cinema. Yeah, that gives you
it's jazz.
Yeah, you mean like jazz?
Yeah. It flows so it's like that.
Yeah, and it's a sweep that you get from like old Soviet cinema, some Chinese cinema, but it's like, and for such a contentious issue, it just blew my mind. And I've always been a huge fan of the way he directs his actors. Yeah, I love his camera work.
Yeah.
For me, he's the most French of all the Chinese filmmakers.
Yeah.
So I really, really like him a lot. So I've been following his work a long time. And then this one is something quite unique in his filmography. And I think it has got to do with, letting go, a bit. So, so I really enjoyed the film. I don't know what else to say. It's a film that is really, I feel you see a lot of different films, right? And then you see Loye, which to me is like, it's a totally different level.
Yeah.
It's a bit like when I was studying in London, like I went to a music festival in Berlin because I wanted to watch Radiohead. So for 2 days you see all these bands, they're amazing, and then you watch Radiohead, right? As the closing act, right? You're just like, okay, all the bands are like really good, but Radiohead is just on a different fucking level. It's just a different mountain. So Loye's film gives me that kind of feeling like not to say that other people are not good. Everyone is it's a very strong selection of films, But seriously, this guy is on another level, yeah. So that's kind of like, yeah, where we're at, lor. Yeah. And it's kind of like, I think to me, in this festival, it's one of the so-called few, I would say, contemporary masters lah,
Mm.
of cinema, which is not so common anymore, even with filmmakers who continue to produce work. I think it is quite, people are reluctant to label certain filmmakers like a master, like Jafar Panahi, everyone, no one's gonna doubt that. Yeah. So it's kind of like we don't have a lot of it in this festival. Maybe that's why I feel this way. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's not a fault of the festival. It's just the nature of film production, and yeah, a lot of masters are dead. So yeah, lot.
John?
I've not seen this film.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Also, only
Unfortunately.
I've seen it.
No, Sepeng has watched
I've
it
seen
as
it.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before I get into the film, both of Loya's screenings were sold out. And I didn't have a ticket, so I was one of those like buggers who were queuing outside, hoping to get in, and I almost thought I couldn't get in. I think the film screened for like 5 to 10 minutes already. I was the only guy, or maybe one of the few people who were desperately hanging on hope to get in. Most people who were told that there were no more seats, they left. Yeah, and I think I just waited and waited until I was the only guy left. And some kind soul, I shouldn't name who, but some kind soul kind of let me in. And even though I missed, I think the first 10 or 15 minutes, I caught the rest of the film. And yeah, and hearing you talk about Lo Ye, I agree, like this film, right, really, after watching all the films, right, and watching his film, you can see he's on a different level. And I got the same feeling last year, right, where I think John also experienced the same thing where, we watched a lot of films, right, and then on the last day, or the last film, we watched this David Lynch film.
Yeah.
And you can tell, right, David Lynch is just on another level.
Yeah, man.
Like,
what is that movie? Fire Walk with Me. Yeah, Twin Peaks.
Fire Walk with Me. Yeah.
Fire Walk with Me. Oh, crazy. So bold.
Yeah. And yeah, honestly, I don't really know what to say, except that I think what's interesting, right, is most of the quote-unquote actors in the film were played by his crew. But the director is sadly not played by him. I think he should have played the director, right? That would have been great. And I think also what I noticed was it was screened at Cannes, but not in any competitive section. And it was eligible for a documentary award. That was what's surprising to me. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a mockumentary, right?
Mockumentary. But I don't think it was mocking anything. It was like...
Right.
I don't even know if docu-fiction is the right word.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a film.
It's a film. It's just a film.
But...
And...
Sorry, go on.
And I think why... I was watching the film, right? And why he is so good, it's just that throughout this whole shit show called COVID, right? He can still have fun, with the scenario.
Yeah.
All the dancing and everything. It's really a breath of fresh air, modulating the emotional pitch of the film.
For me, it's a protest.
Yeah.
Having fun. And I remember, and I got this idea because I was at Yamagata last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember. I encountered the work of this Chinese filmmaker, which is not so well known in Singapore. Her name is Zhang Mengqi. And she's been making this like 75 km series. Basically, like her films are very long and they are very simply shot. It's just her and a camera on a tripod. Usually there's not even an operator. Yeah, but basically in one of the Q&As, someone was talking about COVID. Yeah, it was a Chinese student filmmaker. She was asking Zhang Mengqi like, how do we like move forward, post COVID? Things seem so difficult. Zhang Menqi is actually she's a very nice lady, yeah, because I was hanging out with her at the festival also. But when she heard that question, she actually became like mildly agitated. And I think because it struck a chord in her and she was very passionate about this subject matter. And she said that if you keep thinking that you cannot make films because of COVID, then COVID / the government has won. Yeah. Because for her, COVID is if you submit to COVID, then you are just submitting to I don't want to say power and authority lah, but basically, yeah, that's how she sees COVID. It's very similar to, and when I say this, I now think of Happyend. Remember in Happyend how like the government uses the earthquake as a pretext and reason to increase surveillance in the name of safety. And it's the same thing with COVID. I'm not entirely clear of the details, but COVID is also, and that's something that Neil Sora actually raises he talked about in his Q&A, which is a pattern in authoritarian like systems of power. They always like to hijack on some kind of disaster or some kind of like tragedy to increase their hold on citizens. So for Meng Qi, yeah, I think that was that. And I remember when I saw the so-called, them having fun, then I was reminded of this lah. And to me, I thought, this is a protest, The more you tell me I cannot make a film, the more I will show you that I will make a film. There is this resistance,
right?
This spirit of resistance, which really it moved me lah. It's like a love letter to cinema to me. Yeah, because I'm sure you have made films, and making films is so difficult, and making films is about resisting. Yeah, it's back to like what I experienced when I saw Wei Liang shooting his film for the first time. It is a resistance. It's the stupidest thing. Yeah, yeah, really stupidest thing that you can do. Really, it absolutely makes no sense. Yeah, financially, yeah. Spiritually, practically, yeah, it's the stupidest thing you can do. But even that idea we have to resist lah. Yeah. So I think
tomorrow I'm going to a student film shoot, right? I'm going to tell them exactly that. I'm like, guys, you guys setting up all these shots here is the stupidest thing we all can do.
Yeah, but you guys are resisting.
Yeah, but you guys are resisting. So yeah.
I mean, I always have the idea, like especially when sometimes I walk past a film set in public that's not my film set or my friend film set. Like I see some people shooting like whatever lah from a distance. They really look like idiots. If you look like why are all these grown up adults, fussing about, right? But it's only when you are within, I would say, 2 to 3 meters of the camera, then you know what's really happening. But otherwise, from an outsider's point of view, it's like, I mean, if there's no Brad Pitt, there's no famous actor, there's a bunch of idiots. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. That really is the feeling I get. Yeah, lor. So it's like, it's a folly.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't really know what to say of the film, but I was just thinking about what you said earlier about Loya's earlier films. You mentioned Summer Palace, which I don't know, maybe I need to revisit that film again, but it's one of my least favorite Loya films. And I think Loya has 3 phases, the way I see it. There is the Weekend Lover, Suzhou River, Loya. And then Purple Butterfly is like this transitional phase, and then there is the Summer Palace, Spring Fever, mystery phase. What you might quote unquote call the French Euro phase, which I'm not a big fan of.
He did make a French film, actually.
Yes, Love and Bruises.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually saw that. Yeah, I was like,
I think that one
yeah,
not bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's a French film.
Yeah, so that middle phase, right, is my least favorite Loya phase. It just felt very inauthentic to me.
Oh.
Yeah, and I feel like his use of like political backdrop feels more opportunistic than like a genuine attempt to say something. That's how I feel. And then when Loya started making Blind Massage, from then on, I kind of like fell back in love with his work again. Yeah, I think Blind Massage is so sincere and so simple but so good, right? Yeah. And I mean, Unfinished Film is great. I didn't watch Saturday Fiction. Did you guys see?
I have not seen that. I watched
Okay.
the film before that,
Shadowplay, right?
Shadowplay.
How do you find that?
Which one?
Shadowplay is quite an interesting film. That film I actually watched it at Berlinale. It's about it's a love triangle kind of thing, but it's set in this real like small town housing crisis backdrop. Again, there's a backdrop there. Yeah, a bit Chapalang lah, to be honest. But when he kind of get going in some of his filmmaking flourishes, right, you will be like, wow, the way this guy uses the camera and sweep here and there, it's really quite amazing. You know, like how he kind of show the journey of a few friends, his montage and everything. And then after that, it kind of go on some tangents. Like there's like some people trying to like uncover conspiracy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So those parts didn't really work. Weirdly, there's Edison Chen in the film as well, and he's being censored. And not say censored, but cut off quite a lot here and there. He does have a bit of rebel in him, like he will deliberately like cast Edison Chen, you know, even though he's not very welcome in films in mainland China. Yeah, so I think somebody asked him that question, why do you cast him in the film? And then he will say like, he said something very broad, but very mysteriously. He say that every history is a history. Yeah, even if it's not good. Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? and everyone just, oh, okay. Okay, so next film that both of you guys watched together is
Grand Tour
Grand Tour.
by Miguel Gomez. Is that how you pronounce it? Gomez?
Yeah, I guess so. That's how we pronounce it. I mean,
Gomez.
I think Gomez sounds better.
Yeah, Gomez.
Ivan, how do you find this?
Well. Yeah.
Say again?
How did you find this film?
Enjoyed it because I like Miguel Gomez, so I knew what to expect. Yeah, in a way, but I was still surprised because I think it really was. I mean, at least for me, was like he was having fun lah. Yeah, it's really not about anything that will make you cry or think very deeply about anything. It is a filmmaker, I think, who was really enjoying what he's doing. Yeah, of course, I have a lot of questions. Yeah,
but you like this kind, right? You like when the film is not so transparent.
Yeah, but I was like, but I have a lot of questions, but because I know his work, so I know like I don't go and think so much, you know, just watch. Yeah, so that I did have a bit of like mild issue with like some of the scenes felt a bit like colonial gazing. And I don't know if and I mean the main character who is running away from his fiance, is working for the colonial folks lah. So does that have anything to do? You know, it's like the way he look at Singapore, for instance, so colonial, right? It's like Raffles Hotel having the Singapore slings, or right, and then even the very first shot, which was mesmerizing, hypnotizing, you know, of the Ferris wheel, very colonial. Like there were a lot of those kind of shots, so I was not sure what to make of them. Yeah. And then, you know, why is it that the voiceover keep changing nationalities? I also don't know, you know. or at the start, why is it some, I thought there's some kind of system as to what is black and white and what is color, but apparently there's no system. It's like, it kind of like,
Right. I think the different. So for the audience who don't know, the story is basically there is this British guy, British, right? He
Yeah.
is supposedly a spy, and as a spy, he has to hop around different countries.
Mm.
He's also a newly engaged fiance, and his soon-to-be wife is trying to chase after him because I think he doesn't really want to get married. He has this
Yeah.
fear of marriage, and he may not be a spy, but he's either working or he is trying to run away from his wife. So the film is following this lady who is trying to chase her husband. I think so. In each country that the lady runs to, and also where the guy goes to, the voiceover is voiced in the native language, and I think that is Gomez's attempt to try to be a bit more authentic. Because imagine if it's done in English, then the subjectivity is really that of a colonial gaze, right? But I think he tries to temper that colonial gaze maybe by introducing this very local dialect voiceover.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think. Like honestly, the only film I've seen from Gomez is the Arabian Nights,
Mm.
and I really have to thank Bitian because he programmed these two films at like SIFA used to have this open series, right? I don't know, Ivan, if you were around or you were overseas. Singapore International Festival of Arts. There was like a pre-festival event, and Bitiam was the main programmer for that. And in fact, during that year, he programmed Arabian Nights, like this 2-3 hour film by Gomez, and he also programmed Titi, which is the debut film of Reddy Ram, who's the Fable played in this year. So I think I have to thank Bitiam for introducing me to these two directors.
Mm.
Yeah. And I love Arabian Nights. And I went into Grand Tour expecting it to be something like that. This very mythical, fable-ish kind of dreamlike, escapade. But it was like completely like no connection to no semblance to that. And to be honest, for the first half of the film, I was pretty like disinterested. It wasn't really engaging for me. I think only when we started to follow the lady chasing her husband, right, or soon to be husband, then I start to feel more engaged. Yeah. The first part, it was more from the husband's perspective, right?
Yeah.
That was a bit boring.
It's like, why you want to root for this guy, right? You also know why he's running away. It's one of those.
Yeah.
I did have the same experience. Yeah, but because my first encounter with Miguel Gomez was Redemption, which is a very little known short film he did. I saw it, and it was like, I think it was a very. I mean, I was really a filmmaker then, and it's just one of those cinematic experiences where I think the closest parallel I can compare it to is to Sun Soleil. When I first saw Sun Soleil, I actually first encountered Sun Soleil when I was not a filmmaker. I was in university, and I was in MoMA because it was the end of my exchange. And then Sun Soleil was playing from a very tiny television. And I remember I walked past it was part of an installation actually. But they played the whole of Sun Soleil, and I remember I walked past it and it just caught my attention. Those like, it's Zhao Cai Mao, is it? Or those cats. I remember.
This one.
Yeah, I remember, those cats, and then juxtaposed with like salary man sleeping on the train, and I was completely sucked in. Like, I don't even know who this guy is, know nothing about cinema, and I just sucked in and I just end up standing there watching the whole thing.
Wow.
Because it was it's just something like really new, for me. So I think Redemption had that kind of effect on me. Like, wow, it was something new. Plus, I don't know why, but I was so emotional when I watched it. I was crying the whole time. Yeah. And it's not because it's sad or whatever, but because it hit something in me, that what had actually had very little to do with the film. Yeah. So
Right.
so Miguel Gomez has this kind of like special place in my heart, and I have to say I'm biased lah. Yeah. In this sense, if I go to Grand Tour, I'm like, if I didn't know this guy, maybe I would be a bit more like, what is this, right? But because I think in the form, it's more similar to the short film that I saw. Then actually I haven't seen Arabian Nights, but from the sound of it, I don't think it's anything like it. Yeah. And also another reason why I like him is also because I mean, I think in Arabian Nights, he and Apichatpong kind of like swap DPs, right? If I'm not wrong.
I have no idea. Is
Yeah,
it?
I think he was using, so for Arabian Nights, he used Apichatpong's DP, and then because Apichatpong was shooting Memoria, so Apichatpong had to use, so not Memoria, the Uncle Boon, no, Cemetery of
Cemetery of
Splendor,
Splendour.
and he had to use another DP, so it was really interesting. I mean, it's just one of those like geek stuff lah. Yeah, and I think Apichatpong's DP was one of the 3 DPs, on Grand Tour. So that's cool, yeah.
So it, in a way, given that the DP is a Thai, Southeast Asian, can you say there is a colonial gaze?
I mean, I don't know what goes on, like behind the scenes. I don't even know which part he shot. They all look quite coherent to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, it's hard to really say what is colonial and what is not. Right. I mean, it is an easy label, right, to put on. Like, okay, you have this white dude coming to Southeast Asia, and some shots are a bit like fetishizing.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
exotic lah.
yeah, but at the same time, you can also say that the character is coming to Southeast Asia with such a pair of eyes. Like everything is new to him. Yeah.
But it didn't bother me so much. It's just a thought, yeah.
Mm-mm. Yeah, honestly, I came away with this film like without the sense of wonder that I had when I saw Arabian Nights.
Understand.
So, oh well. Sorry, Mr. Miguel. I was so ready to love this film, but too bad. All right,
Okay.
next one. Yeah, I guess I'll talk about the Fable a bit because
Yeah.
I mentioned it's one of my
Can.
favorite films. Yeah, so Ram Reddy is a Indian filmmaker, and this is his second feature film. His first feature film is this film called Titi, and I'm not sure in the timeline if I mentioned BTM before, but I'll just say it again. BTM programmed TT back in, I think, 2016 or 2017 at SIFA Open, and that was how I learned of this director. And yeah, I've been looking forward to his next film, and finally, like 8 years later, he made his second film, and damn, it's really good in that it's like this very classical, I mean, if there is such a term, like this very classical art house film, where it's a very strong narrative, and basically the main character is this landlord. He owns this like humongous plot of land where it's an orchard lah, and he grows like fruits, and he has like this whole workforce of laborers from the village, and they're all working under him. And this film explores like this relationship between not just him and his family, but also him and his relations to his employees. And the inciting incident is when some of the trees in the orchard start to get burnt. And initially, maybe he thought it was like some disease in the orchard, but as time progresses and as more and more trees become burnt or like blackened out, he starts to suspect like sabotage or foul play.
Right.
And then he involves the police, and because of this weird dynamic, like he's this very rich guy, so the police are also trying to like suck up to him and and get into his good graces so that they can
Right.
benefit from his largesse.
Mm.
And it's just this very it reminds me of a bit of like Jaylan's later films, that kind of ambition in tackling like issues of class, and also there's some like magical realist elements to it, where this guy he invents like this wing, and his hobby like the way he de-stress, right, is he will put on this set of like eagle wings. He will run up to like the edge of some mountain and he will just jump off and he will fly.
Right. That sounds good. Yeah.
Narratively, I'm not sure how that fits into it, but I mean, it's great, right? It's a very good like cinematic sequence.
If anything, it's a fitting interlude to the larger sum of things.
Yeah, and I think I just like this film because it's just a well written and well acted piece of like screenplay, and it just so very gracefully examines all the issues that I just mentioned. And I don't know, man, it's as simple as that. And
right.
The texture of the film, right, is like I think they really shot it on film, and it feels like you are watching
a film made in the past, lah.
Yeah, like Spirit of the Beehive. I don't know why I kept thinking of that film.
Yeah. It's a textural thing, lah, right? But one that is it's quite interesting because I think Vietnam was shot on film as well.
Yeah, but I didn't really feel that.
Correct. I know what you mean. It's not. Whereas for this one, perhaps it's much more burnt into the story feel at ease. You feel one with the film medium, right?
Yeah.
I tend to have the issue with when people used to use film and the how should I say the grain of it, right? It becomes almost like aware.
Yeah.
But I guess that happens when you use 16 rather than 35.
Yeah.
But it becomes almost like a filter.
Yeah.
Another example, I think it's what is that Chinese thriller film? I forgot already. Last year it was in Cannes as well. It was shot in 16mm film as well, and you can
not
feel.
Black Dog, right?
No. I forgot what was the filmmaker's name already. Right, and it's like a detective film or something like that, and a murder mystery.
Oh, I know.
Right. You know what I mean, right?
I know. Yes. Yeah. It was distributed here.
Correct. And
something river, right? The river flows.
Correct. And it's so strange because when you think about film, when it was still commonly used all the way until the mid 2000s, late 2000s, right?
Yeah.
You don't you recall it getting advanced as it goes, right? To a point that it's shot on film, but you don't see any grain there.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to show you that it is shot on film. You can feel it organically kind of sip into it already, right? But nowadays it's like when you shoot on film, it's almost as if like you have to. It's some form of announcement that visually this is a film shot on film.
Yeah. I think watching the Fable, I mean, it's called the Fable because the 16mm quality lends this like ethereal and fairy tale quality to the experience.
Right.
I think this film is there's a fairy tale quality in this story, from the father flying, and even in the whole setup, in like even a fairy tale like Cinderella or the Shrek, right? They are tackling like very
Very real issues.
very big issues,
Yeah.
like the what do you call the palace people versus the commoners and all that.
Yep. Yep.
And there is a lot of these themes also going on in the Fable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It told in a kind of like a fairy tale like way.
Yeah. And like the ambition of this film, right, didn't hit me until the end when so what happens is slowly and slowly, right, more and more parts of the orchard catches fire. And the climax is when, right, there's this humongous like forest fire burning everything down. And it leads the landlord to think that either the land is cursed or he is cursed and he is not meant to own this land. And the film ends by him saying, perhaps this is God's sign to me that this land shouldn't be under my domain. And what he does is he gave the land back to the villagers. Yeah. And it's also a commentary on the way land ownership has evolved through like the history of India. So how this landlord managed to acquire the land was an inheritance from his grandfather. So his grandfather took the side of the British. I think he, like, if I remember correctly, like the grandfather was helping the British Empire. So as like a reward, the British people like gave this plot of land to the grandfather. And so this main character in the film inherited the plot of land. But actually the land originally belonged to the villagers. So you imagine this landlord owning this plot of land that used to belong to the villagers, but right now the villagers are the ones that are working for him. It's almost like in America, when the white Americans came over from Europe, they exterminated the native Indian Americans and took over their land. There is kind of like a parallel to that. So at the end of the film, when this landlord, in a way, not just a landlord, like a feudal lord, almost like a feudal lord from like old Russian times, gave the land back, then I realized, wow, this film is really the scope is so yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, the script is just is great. Yeah.
It's well thought out.
Yeah, very well thought out. Like there are layers to this film. Alright. I mean Almodovar's film, I saw it after the festival. It's his first English language film. I don't know what to say. I think I enjoyed it for the most part.
Did the English language feel clunky?
I think the dialogue at the start was a bit much. There was like too much exposition.
Right.
But when you have Julian Moore and Tilda Swinton, like they can make magic with any dialogue. Yeah. So I mean, I like the film. I don't love it. Still worth a watch. The next one is this black and white kitchen drama called La Cocina. What else can I say? I mean, great film. It's just a very intense drama. Exploring like the tensions that happen
in the kitchen.
And I mean, there have been like a few famous kitchen dramas, right? Like The Bear. But the main
Boiling
issues,
Point,
Boiling Point. But the main issues that this film is trying to explore is immigration. So this restaurant is like a New York restaurant, and they employ a lot of undocumented immigrants, and
right.
a lot of them are just trying to make a living, and with the eventual goal to get some kind of legal visa to stay. But their situation is very precarious, and some of these immigrants who work in the kitchen, they've been there for like 6 to 8 years, and they are still undocumented and still working there illegally. And they're always on the precipice of being fired. Yeah, so there's some kind of like exploitation going on, but at the same time, they're like very tough people. Yeah, I mean, when I say exploitation, I also there was a film that we talked about just now, right?
Mongrel.
Mongrel. But
Is
yeah,
it?
but the thing is, right, it's so different. Like in this film, like these people are tough, man. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Is there the sense of this is set in America, right?
yeah, in New York.
Is there the sense of the whole like unseen American dream kind of lurking behind that kind of message that they try to show? So like the mirage of an American dream, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess it's always like in the background.
Right.
I think the director didn't really consciously like surface that, but I mean, when you're in New York, when you set a film in New York, that's always in the background, right? The Statue of
Sure.
Liberty
Yep.
and all that. Yeah, great film lah. I think Projector is releasing that.
It is actually showing in projector right now. Yeah, I saw the listings. Yeah, it was showing 8 p.m.
Yeah, should go and watch. The directing is just good.
Okay.
Yeah, next one is The Killers, which is an anthology of 4 30-minute short films.
Right.
Nothing much to say, but it's a crazy, fun genre film. So
Right. Crime theme? Is it a crime themed film?
it's more than crime. It's like there are vampires in the first one,
Okay.
and
Right.
very bloody. And this guy got bitten, turned to a vampire, and start killing the gangsters who were chasing him. That's the first one.
Are the stories all interconnected or separate stories?
Yeah, stories are not interconnected, but there is the commonality is there is. I think one main actress one actress appears in all the shots. Yeah.
Right. What is your general sentiment towards films like that, where essentially it's a feature film with 3 different short films in it?
Most of the time they're not really good, right?
It always feels like I can't recall what is one anthology film which is like singularly directed by one director. I would say the one that which one?
The Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy.
Oh yeah, that is really good. Yeah, I would say that is very good. Yeah,
but that is done by one director. But in most anthology, there are like 3 or 4 different directors.
Because I always felt like coming out with 3 short films. Firstly, it's a bit of a cop out, It's because you get to escape the tediousness of crafting a 90-minute narrative and everything. It's like, I can just make 3 short films. Okay, but Wheel of Fortune is really good. I would say Ho Xiao Xian's 3 times is really good as well. But the one is more connected than you think, because it's the same actors and they explore the same themes. It almost feels like reincarnations of certain people, that kind.
Yeah.
But when you are talking about quite different stories put together, I always kind of not quite sure what to feel about it.
And honestly, there are really no good reasons to make anthology films.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing as well.
Yeah, I feel like most anthology films are maybe like vanity projects or pet projects.
Yeah. Jim Jarmusch is quite good at and his is not even really like anthology, because like, for example, if you watch his film Mystery Train, it's 3 different short films, but they are somehow all kind of connected in that same town. Some character here appears there as well, and you still get a cohesiveness of whatever he's trying to tell.
Yeah, I suddenly remember 2 anthology films. One of them is Francis Ford Coppola, Woody Allen. Didn't they make one also?
Yeah.
That's so bad.
The one is so bad. The one is like, it's really just like Yeah, it's like one of those Paris Jetim, yeah, where everyone just, you do your thing, I do mine. We don't even care if it kind of fits,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also know Wong Kar-wai did one anthology film with other filmmakers. Do you remember?
Yeah, the Eros.
Eros, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Wong Kar-wai's one is amazing though.
Yeah, but the other ones, I don't recall them being very good.
It's Soderbergh's and Michelangelo Antonio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually never seen that. I just watched the Wong Kar-wai's like film by itself, probably even like an extended version. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I should say this, but Anthony also did an anthology film, which wasn't very good also.
What is it? Distance? Yeah.
Yeah, Distance.
Yeah, I can't quite remember what was it about lah. But it's like also by 3 directors, but played by the same characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always like almost like a bet lah, when you embark on an anthology film.
I guess it's good for publicity lah, but I don't know where I read, but in general, anthology films seldom make money.
Yeah. I can see why. For one, you kind of take away the satisfaction of audiences trying to watch one whole film in one sitting.
Yeah.
It's like, start again? Start again? Yeah. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
What is next? Yeah, I think, okay, so that's all.
Yeah.
I think we can talk about documentaries now.
Great. Okay, so we watched 4 documentaries this time. The first one we watched on the second day of the festival. It's called Antidote, directed by James Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe before we talk specifically about this film, right, I think I just want to say, like, I think this year, even though there are only 4 documentaries, and the last one maybe can't even be called a documentary, right?
Yeah,
it's like an
kind
essay.
Of, yeah, it has elements of documentary, and the construction of the images are still a little bit fiction based also.
Yeah, but these 3 films that we watch is like very strong, and I think it really like highlights, like it provided like an insight like into the state of the world.
Yep.
Like maybe we can talk about each of the docu first, then we can give like a high level observation.
Sure. So the 4 documentaries we watched this time are Antidote, directed by James Jones, which is a film about how journalists and activists, they are trying to expose Russia's ongoing insidious plans to always poison those that oppose them lah. And then another documentary we watch is at Averroes and Rosa Parks, directed by Nicolas Filbert, a very prolific French documentary filmmaker. So the film, it's about the happenings within a psychiatric center in Paris. So it's really just a series of extended conversations between the caretakers, the carers, and the patients. The third documentary that we watch is the one that we mentioned, that we are not even sure is it considered a documentary, is When the Phone Rang. And when the phone rang, it's about events that kind of take place on a very certain day in Serbia, right? After this little girl, she receives a phone call in I think 1992, and that phone call, something happened to the father, right? In the war at that time, that kind of changed whatever that's going to happen to her life. But it's kind of, rather than show you like obvious war imagery, it kind of goes the opposite direction and shows you everything that is mundane in the life, the aftermath, the reaction to it. Yeah. And it's kind of constructed in, call it reenactment, but in a very essay film kind of style. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last one I've not seen, but you've seen, it's Direct Action by Guilherme Faleo and Ben Russell.
Direct Action could have been a great film if it was cut more more disciplined.
Cut more directly.
If it was more disciplined with its cutting.
Right.
It's a documentary following more or less the mundane going on in this community of a very radical environmental activists and anarchists, and they are resisting efforts from business interests to take over this little plot of land that they have, this little village. Yeah, and I was a bit disappointed because the film for the first so it's a 3.5 hour film, and I think for the first maybe 2 hours or 2.5 hours, a lot of it is just long takes of these activists doing very mundane things like baking bread, doing like blacksmithing, I don't know, doing cleaning or what. So I can understand the approach, but do I really need to watch 20 minutes of this pair of hands making bread?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was shorter, it would be more engaging. And but his perspective is quite interesting in the sense that instead of, because in films we always talk about main characters, right? Like, okay, there is one main character and we follow 1 or 2 or 3 main characters, but I think his approach for this film was he doesn't believe in spotlighting an individual or a few individuals. What's important is like this mass movement. So the way a lot of the shots are framed is like focus on the body and the physical act of labor in whatever forms, whether it's baking bread or doing some repair work or sweeping the floor or what. It's only near the end where it becomes more political. So you see like demonstration, protest, and once in a while you hear them have like conversation about the situation, and I really wish there was more of these conversations. In fact, I went into the screening expecting to learn about the issues that they're trying to confront, learn about how they think about the world and their politics, but there wasn't much of that. Yeah, so that's my like disappointment with the film.
Right.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should talk about the Antidote.
Antidote was so good.
Antidote is really good.
It's good, and it's a very important film to watch.
Yep.
Given that right now Russia is trying to conquer Ukraine, right? And I can only imagine what they are doing to dissidents in their own country.
Yeah. It's firstly, I appreciate the tight duration of the film. It's only 90 minutes, and it's shot in a fairly conventional way, but I do like that it kind of follows the character Christoph Grozev, right? Who is the what's the company that he's
basically he hits this journalistic group,
correct,
that tries to uncover what
corruption
Putin is doing. Like corruption in Russia.
Correct. And the camera kind of goes up close and personal with him. And some of the things he goes through in the film, it's subtly shown, but it's pretty crazy as well. For example, the death of his father.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the second act of the film, and it's just like for undisclosed reasons. There's also a kind of separate thread showing this Russian scientist that is trying to escape
Yeah.
as well. That was a nice thread, and there was another like kind of story following the opposition party member
Yes,
who was
yes.
being imprisoned, and
Yeah.
eventually he got released as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I think the main character is really about this journalist Christo Grozev.
Grozev.
Yeah, and so he's like this Bulgarian investigative journalist who is I think has taken it upon himself to try to uncover corruption in Russia and how Putin is basically going about poisoning his opponents. And the two other characters featured in the docu, one of them is actually the scientist. And he's a very important character because the scientist is is part of the team that were developing these poisons that were being used against Putin's opponents.
Sure.
And I really wish we saw more of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think perhaps for his safety,
yeah, that's true.
They kind of restricted his share of stuff. Oh yeah, the guy that was released, the so-called Russian dissident Vladimir Kara-Murza. Yeah, so that was another thread as well that was ongoing together with the Christo's journey in the film. Yeah. It's really quite crazy if you come to think about it. It's like
it's very crazy.
Yeah, that's what. But it's so kind of the crazy thing is done in these simple locations. I mean, he's like just going home, and then he calls the father. He's like, "I can't go home because they're going to kill me." And it makes you think about how reality of things are really, really super uncinematic, but also quite cinematic if you are really if you are able to kind of show it well. It's like it takes place in locations like that, in simple apartments, right? The rationale and the paperwork and the operations behind murder is so dry but so dangerous at the same time, right? There's no mustache villain, there's no plotting. It's just like it's a matter of business and just self will.
And for me, in today's age where a lot of journalism is like going down the toilet bowl, it's good to see that this kind of like investigating journalism is still going on.
I think at the core of the film, for one, of course, it's highlighting this important issue and this poison, both literally and thematically, figuratively. But it's also about the importance of caring about what matters, being kind of personified by this character. Yeah, so it's really good documentary.
Yeah, and aesthetically, right?
Yeah.
The far end, right, is at Averroes and Rosa Parks.
Yeah, which is totally stylistically and narratively completely on the other end.
Yeah.
So Nicholas Filbert is a very prolific filmmaker. This film that he made was in competition in Berlinale. It's also kind of like a companion piece to another film that he made called On the Adamant, right?
Yeah.
Right, which won the Golden Bear.
Yeah.
Was it a year ago? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched it
at the Mental Health Film Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
No, I didn't watch it. But now I'm curious to watch it because after watching this film, I do really want to watch it. Yeah.
And I was telling you he's like the French version of Frederick Wiseman.
Yeah. And you can tell, because the film is really just, for one, when you watch it, you can't help but wonder how much good stuff is also being cut out just to make it to the final film. And it's a very conscious decision in terms of the visual grammar to just keep to a series of conversations between the carer and the patient, right? And they go on and on and on. I think it's like an average of 15 minutes per scene, but all compelling nonetheless, right? It's almost as if it's like scripted because the dialogue is so good.
Yeah.
But they just talk about anything, what they feel, how they come to this position, their views on society, and it's all like disparate. But when you kind of put it together, you're like, wow, I get an idea of the people, the worlds, the characters that come into this space, the reflection of society, right? A very brief reflection of society through all these patients. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought of this other documentary by Wang Bing called
Yep.
what's that? Let me Google it. And I think this film, because in Wang Bing's film, right, there's a part in the film where you come to realize that some of the people in that mental asylum,
Yep.
they were mistakenly put inside there.
Right.
They were in fact sane people, but after living in the mental asylum for a few years, they went insane.
Right.
Because of the institutional mistreatment of just being around such people.
Yeah.
And I think this issue is also discussed in this Rosa Parks documentary, in a sense that there is a lot of discussion about the effectiveness of psychiatry.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And I know the field of psychiatry itself has had a contentious history of whether is it a legitimate science, is it a legitimate way to treat people with mental illness.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say why I feel this film is really strong. I mean, as soon as the film ends already, I'm like, wow, like it really, this character stay in my mind. Now, 2 weeks later after I watched the film, I still have a quite clear memory of a lot of things that happened in the film. Because of it felt like we are in the room together with sitting into their therapy sessions or their conversation sessions as well. I still remember the ramblings of that Jew Buddhist professor who's all over the place. The
very idealistic guy.
Correct. The resentful old lady who got burned, and it's crazy. Like, and the very patient carer that listens to her. Yeah, and it doesn't explain to you who these people are. There's no lower third text to show who they are, where they come from. You are just there to feel these people. Once in a while, it cuts to a cutaway environmental shot here and there, and then you are back into another room listening to a person talk again, listening to why they feel about certain things. And then there are people who are just like completely gone already. Yeah, and there are levels of, and you see the range of mental challenges that they are facing as well. Some are just totally like schizo, and while there are some are just like going through a breakdown, and then there are some that are, just can't deal with society. Yeah, and I think quite interesting, especially when we live in Asian society as well, to see another culture that really likes to talk. I don't think that happens for example, in a Singapore psychiatry session. It probably you won't have characters like that as well. So I think it's just quite interesting to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what else to add.
Yeah, Frederick Weissman. Yeah, that's all I can. That's probably to him an unfair statement, but also pretty damn good compliment you can give to a filmmaker in the documentary field also. Yeah. To me, actually, this kind of documentary filmmaking is the kind of documentaries I like. I can watch this kind of documentaries on and on. And I don't feel aimless as well. Because I think documentary structure, while similar to fiction in terms of character goals and all that, you can still kind of, the theme is still the most important. And sometimes in order for us to feel the theme, you can afford to be a bit more broad, a bit more randomized, as long as in the end, when it all comes together, the theme is strongly and clearly presented. I don't have to feel the certain highs or certain lows that you come to expect in a fiction film.
Yeah, I think this film, right, and probably he didn't include. I'm sure he shot a lot, and I think he left out some patients, but what he did include, right, the stories of those patients that he did include, just highlighted a system where the carers are like really trying their best, and sometimes, you know, at the end of the day, these carers do face limited resources offered by the state. It's really like no fault of the carers that they themselves, I think, are also at a loss of how to handle certain situations.
Right.
You can see that when the patient's talking to them, and you can see in their eyes like they don't know what to say.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting because earlier on, Ivan spoke about how the first time he was on the film set is on Wei Liang's student film, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said that it was a short reverse shot that he was shooting, and Ivan just thought, this is the stupidest thing a person can do, right? You shoot already and then you reverse. It's like, what is it doing? But then I can't help but to think in such a situation where it's also a short reverse shot, but they definitely use two cameras because there's no way you can repeat that, right? It is a completely different way of, arguably, the shot size is the same, right? But the energy that goes into recording this reality unfold, right? It's so different, right? You are placing there, you are letting it all just kind of vomit out from these people. Then you bring it to the edit room to try to make it work as a film cutting back and forth, right? So I think it's a very conscious decision that he shot in this way. It's always shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, shot, reverse shot, and that repetition instills a certain effect in the audience, lah.
Yeah. There's just a lot of compassion and empathy in this film.
Yep. Yeah, that's for sure.
And also a lot of humor, right? Like unexpected humor.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Okay, the last film that we're going to talk about for our SGIFF special is When the Phone Rang by Eva Radivojevic. Yeah, Serbian film. So like just now we talk about what the story is. Yeah, so this is quite an interesting film. We watched this after some nights. Some nights I feel like walking. Yeah, I enjoyed the film. Quite. I would say quite pleasant watch actually, oddly speaking, because of even though the theme is quite serious, but it's actually quite a zen like watch. as well. It deliberately shows the mundane things like the VCR in the
Yeah.
room, parents renting porn tapes from the video store below, the hoodlum that just sniff glue and stand on the corner, getting odd haircuts. I think it's very deliberate. It tries to juxtapose this mundane, harmless, everyday things with the seriousness of what is going on in the background. Yeah, and just trying to kind of show how these things, I don't know, is synonymous with being present at a certain space and time in a very important moment in history.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, this film didn't really do much for me, to be honest.
He didn't know much. It's just a plan. It's just a breezing watch, to kind of go with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, initially I was quite keen to watch this because I was interested to see how it tries to tackle this topic of national memory.
Yeah.
Like Yugoslavia obviously is a country that no longer exists.
Yep.
I think right now it's Serbia and something else, right? Like after the Bosnian War, I can't
Yeah.
remember. So I was just interested to see how this film would use like film form to try to
Yep.
present some of these ideas.
Yeah.
And there is this device of the telephone, right? Which I don't know, man. I don't think it's that great of a device for. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. In this film, I didn't really have didn't leave a big impact on me.
Yeah. The reenactments or the performances are also very deliberately muted also. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just kind of show up on the camera, do the thing, and just walk off. Yeah. Having said that, it does help to kind of cement the tone that they are going for. Something, it's like, what was that? Kuriskami, right?
Kiarostami?
Yeah. A little bit of that, but without anything much also. Yeah, but when you watch, like, for example, like his recent film Fallen Leaves, right? Yeah. There is a warmth to it, right? There is character growth. There is romanticism to his films.
Not Kiarostami. Oh, I thought you said Kiarostami. You mean Aki Kaurismäki?
Sorry, Aki Kaurismäki. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, there is deadpan. It's still right, but there's warmth, right? There's romanticism. While the framing, the stylistic choices is similar to that, you just feel it's like the one note kind of going. Nothing. The climax is the haircut. Yeah, a bad haircut that she got. I mean, I suppose that's the point that she's trying to make. Yeah.
Okay.
So
don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that's the documentaries we watch, and
we are welcoming Ivan back. So if you're wondering why we don't see Ivan just now, it's because he didn't watch any of the films. Yeah, not as cinephile as us. Just kidding. Yeah, so like what we did last year, each of us share our top 3 favorite film and our most favorite Singapore film. Okay, John, do you want to start? Because I haven't picked my third favorite film yet.
My top 3 favorite films are Happyend by Sora Neo at Averroes and Rosa Parks, the documentary by Nicholas Filbert, and Time to Be Strong by Nam Kung Sun. My favorite Singapore film is Stranger Eyes by Yeo Siu Hua.
Nice.
Yep.
How about you, Ivan?
My top 3 films for this festival would be April, Vietnam, and Unfinished Film. So April is by the Georgian filmmaker Die. Vietnam, I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Yeah, Unfinished Films by Loye. Yeah. As for Singaporean film, I cannot make a decision because I only watched one Singaporean film, which is Wei Liang's Mongrel. Yeah, so there's nothing for me to compare to. Maybe you all can invite me again when I watch
Sure.
Stranger Eyes and film.
City of Small Blessings.
Tell you my
Yeah.
decision. Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, those are my answers.
And for me, my favorite films are Don't Cry Butterfly by Lin, Happyend by Neosora, The Fable by Ram Reddy, and City of Small Blessings is my favorite Singapore film for this year. In fact, I was just thinking, I think it might be my first or second favorite Singapore film. Probably second. Yeah, after Ilo Ilo. Yeah, that's it. So thank you for doing this with us, Ivan.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank you
having me.
for spending the last 6 hours with us.
Is it 6 hours?
5.
Okay, like 5
5 hours. Thanks,
Okay.
Ivan.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Yeah.
Ivan. See you around.
See you all. Bye-bye.